Take away Roma's loss to Porto in the UEFA Champions League qualification round. And Roma's having a season that's almost second to none. They're averaging more than 2 points a game. Even they have a game in hand and they're 4 points back from Juventus. But they have the second best goal differential in Serie A. And frankly, they've been the best in attack in Serie A as well. The fact of the matter is James Pallotta's plan has been overwhelmingly a success. It's taken an out-of-this-world Juventus to keep Roma off almost in the abyss because nobody pays attention anymore to second-place Serie A team. But they're on the brink of becoming a top European side, I'd say, in the next 2 to 3 years. Whether or not they sell off some of their better players or not, Roma is also producing some of the best players in Italian football. Luca Pellegrini and Mazzitelli, who both play at Sassuolo, are both Roma youth products and are both rated 5-star youth players. So there's an interesting theme going on with Roma. It's this team. They haven't won a lot of Italian Serie A. They haven't won a lot of Scudetti, but they've always been a tough side to beat, and they're beginning to evolve into a more serious team. Now, look, what happened in in Porto this year. This season was already starting off behind the 8 ball before the season even started. They were already behind the 8 ball because not making the Champions League after a third place, after you work an entire year to miss out on 2 heartbreaking games and a few individual mistakes when by far Roma was the better team. I think it's fair to speculate that had Roma not capitulated and they would have gone to the UEFA Champions League group stage, they would have been in the round of 16 easily. I think they're a much greatly improved side compared to last season. We're looking at Roma and saying, wow, this team is serious. But right now we're in the realm of speculation and hypothesizing simply because of those 2 games. Now, since then, they've done a lot of great work. The team is loaded with young talent. And like I said, if they can keep it all together, Roma will be competitive for years to come. It's also worth saying that as Francesco Totti head into the swan song of his career, of course there's going to have to be a new leader on the team. And if Daniele did, and I don't think Daniele De Rossi is the long-term solution to that, considering he's up in age and he's constantly battling injury problems. I think Roma does need to continue to evolve. But taking all this into account, what do they need? Well, this calendar year, 2016, Roma has had the 4th most amount of points out of the top 5 European teams. They're only behind Juventus, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. So right there tells you something. This is a very serious team. If they had sacked Rudy Garcia long before and had appointed Luciano Spalletti back to the manager spot, I think it's fair to say that this team would have been even stronger and given a much bigger threat to Juventus last season. Whether they would have won the title or not isn't really the question. The question is, how far has Spalletti taken the side from the Garcia era, and what else is needed for the roster? And look, the average age of the team isn't bad. It's 26, almost 27 years old. This team has the potential to grow immensely over the next few years. The key components of the team are in their mid-20s at that. You have Manolas, who's 25, Rudiger, who's 23, Bruno Perez is 26, Leandro Paredes is 22, Florenzi's 25, Strootman's only 26, and they even have other major prospects like Gerson too, and Abdoulaye Noura, who's supposedly a major right-back prospect coming to the system. So, with all that in mind, the question that I'm posing today in this radio show is, how far away is Roma from becoming a serious European team? I said 2 to 3 years. They're missing in the attack. They're missing players. Sure, Edin Dzeko is having a tremendous year. There's no debating that. Mohamed Salah is having a decent year. He's already got 8 goals in 16 matches. Diego Perotti is the same. But Edin Dzeko and Mohamed Salah miss a lot of chances. They're not clinical. Dzeko's gotten better. But had he and Salah put away the chances that they were giving against Porto, Roma was through easily. Cards. The question in heading into the next few years, especially I think by June of 2017, or August of 2017, I should say, if they're able to hang on to their key players like Nainggolan, Rudiger, Manolas, then I believe there's a strong chance that Roma will really take off heading into the future. They've been excellent at scouting players. They're loaded with young talent who's currently on loan. So they're finding the talent. I think we'll begin to see some results. But that doesn't make a good team great. No. Roma has to begin to buy players too. Losing Miralem Pjanic really hurt them. I think they always try to deny it, and I mean, rightfully so. You don't want to, lament losing one of your best players and citing that as the source of the problem. No. You don't want to continuously look, in the past. That's, that's a bit of advice for all fronts of life. But they never replaced Pjanic. In fact, they lost other key players too. William Van Keur, as much as he was, at times ineffective, and Seydou Keita provided stability and strength and experience to Roma's midfield. If they need to find stability in the team, they need to keep. They just have to, coming in the next few years, they have to find stability in the roster. The amount of players that they cycle through each and every year, it's too much. I mean, I think, what was it, like 30-40% of the squad was cycled through last year, and there's so many new arrivals. The entire defense, outside of Rudiger or Manolas, was brand new. They all came from somewhere else. You can't have that. Looking on my list right now, I mean, the amount of players that they had either bought from their loan deals, meaning they exercised their right to buy, or that they just recently acquired in the summer, it makes up actually more than the majority of the team. But Roma is there. They're just on the cusp of becoming one of the great sides in Europe. I think James Pallotta is a brilliant guy, despite angering a lot of the Roma ultras for various reasons, which I won't get into today. But the potential for him is there. Potential for this whole side is there. They're two big, or maybe three, but I'm more. I'm more comfortable saying two. There are two projects in Italy, Roma and Juventus, and I guess you could include Napoli, that are really going to reap the fruits of success the next couple of years. I think Milan and Inter are too far off. I think it's going to take more time for them. But I think that Roma has the second best project in Italy behind Juventus. The thing is now they have to continue to develop talent. They have to keep their big players, and they have to find clinical finishers. Defense of course, that can always be improved. Juventus has the BBC and Rugani. Yeah. That's a staple. Roma has to find a part of this team and make it like a rock. I'm thinking it's going to be the midfield if they can hang on to Nainggolan and Kevin Strootman. I'm thinking that's where it's going to be. But they had to find a part of the team, and they have to make it a rock. This is the identifiable part of Roma, just like Juventus did with the BBC. And if they do that, and if they can style of play of being one of the more prolific sides, they create a ton of chances. They're not the best at finishing those chances, albeit, but they do create a lot of chances. I think Luciano Spalletti is the guy to continue to build this side. Now, an interesting note, and I'm going to finish the video with, the show with this, is that Luciano Spalletti's deal expires at the end of the season. Not many people are talking about that. Luciano Spalletti, in fact, was signed almost on an interim basis because there was a chance that somebody else would come up in that run and would snag him. Because, like I said, Spalletti wasn't the coach the entire season. He came, I believe, in the middle of January, early February, but don't quote me on that. I do know that Rudy Garcia had at least 2 points to Roma's tally this year. So there's my keys to success for Roma. You have to, number one, stop the roster turnover. You can't keep you can't be rebuilding a team every single year. You have to identify one part of your team and one part of your team's strengths and expand upon it. You have to lock down Luciano Spalletti. You have to. And I think they could use some more prolific attackers. Again, if Francesco Totti does decide to call it quits at the end of the season, which right now I don't think there's a strong indication that will be the case, there'll be more spots opening. I think Wani Turbe is gone as well. There will be spots available to bring in new forwards. We'll have to see. Anyways, guys, it's been Alex Machiti. Thank you again for listening, and have a wonderful evening.